Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we are going to be breaking down how much money can realistically come into this next bull run and how much adoption can actually take place for crypto long term. Most people simply just deny the fact that there's going to be a giant cycle where institutions pile in at the same time, all of their clients pile in, and then we have retail investors all doing the same thing. We always have understood that this would be the most glorious cycle ever, similar to the internet bubble back in the 90s. Today we're going to break down that potential. I'm going to talk about it, give you guys exact data to back up the different points so that you guys know exactly what's a realistic expectation to target long term. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and this is going to be an important one because I have a lot of people that deny the possibility that there could just be an unreasonable amount of money that floods into the market at one given cycle. And the reason I've always thought that is because there's going to be an institutional phase in the market. There's going to be a cycle where crypto gets mass adoption, where all of the mainstream clients rush to get in, specifically not just mainstream, but I'm talking about the institutional banks, the institutional corporations, all of their investment clientele. And then once that starts happening, the media picks it up. That's what happens pretty much every cycle. But realistically, guys, if you were here for 2017, you would know that crypto got more media attention then than it really did even in the last cycle. Like, I mean, yeah, we did get a decent amount in the last cycle, don't get me wrong, but almost all of that media attention was being driven through NFTs and different things like that. It didn't have much adoption in terms of anything else. And so we also didn't really see the same significant size of a bull market in the last cycle. It was relatively small because of the pandemic. And so a lot of people are just simply thinking that, you know, diminishing returns forever. This cycle is going to peak at $85,000 to $100,000, and then we're going to die. You know, a lot of people are kind of pessimistic going forward, and I just think that this could be that cycle that ends up catching a lot of people off guard, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that there could just be a lot of money coming in at the same time. So we're going to break it down. How much money can come into these markets? How much money can actually come into crypto long term? The only way to be able to really know is to understand how much money is in the world. So we're going to look at this. Each one of these black squares equals $100 billion. So Sam Bankman-Fried's, his net worth was, you know, a quarter of $100 billion, like 25 billion. I think it was 29 billion at the exact top. But then we have all of the sports teams right in here. Then we have crypto, and this was at the 2021 peak, so it was actually even worth more than it is today. You know, 760 billion, that's even, you know, relatively higher up in the bear market when it first started, so some of this stuff's going to be a little outdated, but not by a ton. Now, that's the total market cap of crypto at that point. You're looking at the GDPs of Russia and China, bigger than crypto, military spending, bigger than crypto, currencies, fiat, obviously bigger than crypto. Those are totaling about 8 trillion. And that's, you know, basic money, right? And so then we get down to gold, and then that's a market cap of $11.5 trillion. The world's billionaires, 12.7 trillion just between the top 5. Central bank balance sheets, 28 trillion. S&P 500, 36 trillion. So we're starting to get into really, really high valuations. And here's the thing that I'm trying to help people realize is that there's a lot of money in the world, right? So if we're talking crypto being worth all the way down here at the peak, 2.2 trillion, and we're looking at just the top 5, you know, richest people in the world actually having 10 times that market cap themselves, it's just kind of insane to think about. That's just the richest people. So really crypto hasn't had any, you know, insane adoption. And regardless, you know, that's kind of a high metric because comparing it more to gold with $11.5 trillion, to me, crypto is going to be paired a lot more with that. And so the real, you know, resistance, in my opinion, for market cap for crypto is 10 trillion. Because that puts it right around that same market cap as gold. And I think mainly talking about Bitcoin, the total market cap of crypto can peak up a little bit higher. But to me, it's like a realistic opinion is Bitcoin coming on the high end all the way up to the price, or market cap, I should say, of gold, which would be a significant type of move. You know, Bitcoin would be worth like $500,000 plus if it had that same market cap. And I do believe that the way the future is working, we're going to end up adopting a crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's something else, as a global world reserve currency. And I think that'll be kind of the new thing that we end up using instead of gold. And to me, I mean, it makes the most sense that that's going to end up being Bitcoin. Seems like that's the way things are heading. Who knows? I could be wrong on that. But regardless, Bitcoin itself is pretty much going to get adopted by the way that the market thinks, and so far it's the leading thing. So I mean, what makes us think that we would shift any sort of way? To me, it's just going to be Bitcoin, you know, probably the entire way. So looking forward to this, you know, $11.5 trillion, that's over $500,000 per Bitcoin, and that just gives you guys a little bit of perspective. If we end up going much more than that, if Bitcoin becomes something even more significant than even gold, which I easily think it can, the way that things are so digital nowadays, you know, we could be looking at even more money coming into this thing. Because the thing about, you know, Bitcoin is itself is a little bit more, has a lot more utility realistically. So if we're talking S&P 500 being $36 trillion in total market cap, if we're talking some of this money coming into crypto in some way, whether they're actually buying crypto companies, whether they're, which a lot of these places, you know, have been actually investing into a lot of different crypto startups and different projects. So we're already starting to see some of this money coming in. So what happens when some of these cryptos start actually becoming worth some of these big valuations? Like we're talking XRP, for example, they plan to actually have an IPO. So now that the lawsuit's out of the way, when XRP has an IPO, what's to say they don't become one of these top companies? I think it's fairly likely that ends up happening. And there will be other cryptos to follow. Coinbase is a prime example. You know, whether Coinbase has a coin or not, it really doesn't matter. But being able to buy their stock, like, it just goes to show how much value is inside of the entire world that can end up still coming into crypto without, you know, having a cryptocurrency going up in value, right? So this is the stuff that we're looking for long term. And this is barely scratching the surface. We can come down here. The China and United States GDP, 23 trillion and 17.7 trillion dollars. It's pretty insane how close China actually is to America nowadays. The global money supply, M1, 48.9 trillion. This includes world coins, banknotes, and checking deposits. And then we have broad money at 82.6 trillion. Coins, banknotes, money market accounts, and as well as savings, checking, and time deposits. So that's a ton of money. There is so much money and value inside of the entire world. It's almost hard to even be able to believe and, you know, visualize it. But that's the thing, is having something to be able to visualize it really, really helps a lot. Because if we didn't have these sort of things, these are numbers that just simply don't make sense. And really, I mean, we can't get a true perspective on how much money this is when we're even just looking at stuff like this. This is simplified to the most basic terms. So global debt, 300 trillion. That's so much money. And now we get into global real estate, $326 trillion. That is so much freaking wealth. And that's another thing that people have yet to really grasp, is the fact that there is going to be all of this money from different sectors that are going to end up coming into these markets. If crypto is going to be anything even talked about or considered as a world reserve currency, being Bitcoin or with gold, something like that, we know that they're going to adopt cryptos globally. It's just inevitable. The only way that you can have a one world government is just to have a one world currency. And the only way we can have a one world currency is if it's a cryptocurrency. So, I mean, it just makes the most logical sense that that's the way everything's going. It's going to pivot to that way. It's already been pivoting towards that way. And through crypto, I think that that's where it's going to finally be able to kind of work out. So when we're looking at this, you know, if any of this money comes to the blockchain, over 300 trillion global real estate, if that comes to the blockchain, which we've never really had a way to truly be able to transact value globally through real estate in that sort of sense, you know, in a really liquid way, just because it's so hard getting through borders, getting through governments, getting through legalities and things like that. So to be able to have some of those being, you know, simplified for us through the blockchain, through smart contracts, things like that, it's really amazing to think how much money really can actually come into the blockchain. And like I said, guys, it doesn't have to just go into some crypto coin. It can literally just go into so many different vectors. They build a blockchain, they utilize the blockchain, and then because of that, crypto as a whole gets more adoption. It doesn't have to just go instantly into one little cryptocurrency, but it just shows you the total value that can end up coming into the blockchain, coming into these different cryptocurrencies that do see adoption long term. And it's just truly something to be looking at, because there are cryptos that already are solving certain things with real estate. And you got to think that some of these are going to be able to tap into this market, and it's almost an impossible metric to be able to see how much money they could actually tap into, because it's just never been done before. So when we're looking at all of this stuff, guys, I just thought it was an interesting metric to talk about. You know, household wealth, $463 trillion. We're talking about 10 to 15 trillion dollars coming into crypto. You guys really don't think that out of all of this money inside of the world, that cryptocurrencies all the way back down in here are not going to somehow tap into some of that in some sort of way? In my opinion, that's the future, that the way the world is heading. I'm not saying that every crypto is going to get adopted. I'm not saying that this is 100% just going to take over the world, but it kind of is in some sort of way. Like, the most important thing inside of every nation, inside of every empire, inside of everybody since the beginning of history has always been the wealth. It's always been the currency, and he who controls the currency ultimately controls the world. So if we're all talking about moving towards cryptocurrency, moving all of our money towards cryptocurrency and digital, then how is it that our cryptocurrency total market cap isn't just going to massively increase from here? I mean, it just makes total sense, especially if we have an institutional wave where they're all piling in at the exact same time, where we have all of retail investors doing the same because media outlets are covering it, talking about how it's the future. We've seen it all before in prior cycles, but never to the extremism that I believe we're going to actually be seeing going into this next bull run. So these are just things to consider. Being able to visualize this stuff is the only way to actually be able to see how much could come into crypto and how undervalued we truly are. Because keep in mind, guys, this was valued at the November 2021 peak. We're lower than that right now, so we got even more upside to come, and I just thought it was a cool thing to look at. So let's jump into some of the other charts, and let's talk a little bit about the total market cap and see maybe where we can go from here. In my opinion, this is one of the coolest things to talk about, because assuming we do have some sort of big institutional, cycle, what could that look like? Because when we're looking at the price of Bitcoin, to me, or this is the total market cap, but it's the same thing. To me, what we could actually be getting ready for is a big picture wave 3. So our entire last cycle could have just been the first wave, a one wave impulse, ABC correction, and we're just now beginning wave 3. If that's the case, then inside of a wave 3 impulse, that's generally going to be the most impulsive one of the entire cycle. That's where the most money comes into it, the most volume comes into the market. It's the highest ROI potential from being in early before it happens. All of those amazing things. Now, I'm not saying that we can't have one more massive blow off top to finish all of the cycles, but I'm just saying that wave 3s are generally going to be the biggest and most profitable. You have a better likelihood chance of making money by buying in the 1 and the 2, because we got to remember that if we're looking at this, if this is a 1 wave, that means that this is a 1 and a 2. This entire move was just a 1 and a 2, and we're getting ready for wave 3. So if we have some sort of ridiculous wave 3 that just catches everybody off guard, just absolutely demolishes everybody's expectations, because we do have that institutional cycle, like, what's to say that we can't go well above and beyond $15 trillion in total market cap? Like, it's honestly anybody's best guess. We don't really know, because we've never been at that point. The hardest thing that people have, the thing that people have the hardest time realizing is the fact that crypto is so undervalued in terms of how much money is truly inside of the world, and the fact that crypto is, for the first time, the one global way that we can actually transact with each other. Like, there's going to be a ton of money coming into this stuff, and that's the thing everybody has an insanely hard time realizing. So don't be caught off guard if we have that cycle that catches everybody by surprise, that you end up taking profits on way too early because things just get out of control with how parabolic it is, and then you end up, costing yourself a lot of profit. To me, that's why I'm selling based off time, is because if the price action just starts going crazy, to me, I'm much more, focused in on the time aspect of things, because in that sort of sense, I have a plan that I can stick to, because it removes the emotion from when price might get crazy one way or another. So looking at this stuff, even like 20 trillion in total market cap, that would be a significant move, but we can still kind of, if we come down in here, we can still kind of see that prior cycle. Like, it's not like we've dwarfed it that much. If we're looking at some of the other cycles, coming from the peak all-time high, even in the last cycle. That's about what we dwarfed the last cycle to. And so that's assuming that we come all the way up here to $20 trillion. That's a pretty consistent, that's pretty consistent with what we saw inside of that last cycle. If we ended up seeing something much bigger, like 2017, even though we can't see the all-time high, it's about, right here. That all-time high was clear down here. So we have this much bigger move. So if we see something along the lines of that, which if this actually is a one-wave impulse and we're getting ready to wave 3, we could realistically see it extend much greater than people are expecting just because of those factors. Like I said, you can't predict true adoption taking place inside of institutions. You can't predict that stuff. And crypto are, for the first time, truly scarce assets that you can't some of them you can just pretty much print as much as you want, but a lot of them are actually scarce. So assuming that we have everybody that's got real money coming into these and buying them up, there's probably not that many tokens already on the market. Many of them are, the majority of the supply is being staked. And so if there is people that are actually flocking in to, buy these things, it doesn't take very much money to send these things through the freaking roof. So we just have to be aware of all of this. And the only way to do that is to talk about it. And these are some of the thoughts that I have. And the reason why I personally invest through time is because you can't predict how big or how small the market's going to go, but you can scale out through time. And we've seen that through the cycles, the most consistent thing has been time long term. So, depending on how high this thing goes, we could see this thing going to 50 trillion. I said that the other day, and some person got mad at me because they were saying that I was just trying to pump, everything and say, I don't know, he just said something stupid. But anyways, it's just kind of silly to me that people don't think that $50 trillion can come into this market cap, especially with all of the money I just showed you inside of the entire world's wealth. There's plenty of money that can come into crypto, and it wouldn't take much to be able to send the values of these things through the freaking roof. So just be aware of that. Now, looking in the total market cap of the altcoins, this was a chart we talked about a little while ago, basically just looking at how this market cycle is lining up with the Wall Street cheat sheet. And the thing is it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but we do obviously see that this is playing out in the same sort of way. And where we've just entered is the disbelief phase. Right now, we're breaking out from this little high, flipping it as support right now. And with that, we're going to be making a new high. And in my opinion, the next move coming is going to be pretty big. And that's really where we're going to see the ending of disbelief and us going into this new sort of cycle. Because we've been in this bottom for a significant period of time. Altcoins have lagged a little bit, but a lot of them have actually held support pretty well, especially the fact that a lot of them never made lower lows during the FTX collapse. So when we're looking at this, we have to remember that with all of these leaving their accumulation, this is where we begin that brand new cycle. So as we're leaving accumulation, we don't have much more time to really prepare for this. The preparation should have already happened all throughout this period. And so we basically are at the hodl mode. We're at the point where we just really need to focus on that next cycle. The only thing we can do is prepare. The only thing we can do is have our positions ready, just look to hold the trend, because once the real mania sets into the market cycle, it becomes extremely delusional. And a lot of people, including myself, have become really delusional at times, and it's just a very important thing to have the plan in place and stick to it all the way through and really just limit as many of those emotions as you can. Because if this is some sort of cycle that sees way more adoption that we just haven't seen before, you guys got to expect that the way that the market is going to be reacting to that, the way that media are going to be covering it, it's going to get insane. And especially if you're up a lot on certain altcoins and you have the entire plan to hold the whole cycle and capture as much profit, the only way to really do that is through time, like I've talked about. And so you're either going to have to hold through time or have a specific ROI percentage you want to reach on a specific coin and then take profits. But as we're leaving the bottom, I just want you guys to be aware that things can get a lot crazier than anybody expects, and the amount of money in the world is a lot higher than most people even realize. And the only way to realize is to kind of look at it. So that's what we did for today's video. Anyways, guys, if you found today's video valuable, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to join the Discord server, see how I'm investing my money, how I'm positioning myself long-term inside of the bull run, things like that, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. And then from there, you're going to be able to get access to every single thing inside of my private group. So thank you guys so much for the support. Like I said, it really means a lot to have everybody tuning in. I think that things are only going to get more exciting from here, and I'm just happy to have have the people around that have stuck around, have maintained the entirety of the bear market, and even the people that are just jumping in now. Everybody right now is positioned good, are going to make some good money if you just have the foresight to, just kind of hold on to things and really remember that this is a long-term game, and we just started that long-term game, and the fun part pretty much is just about to happen, so stick around. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.